Alright, so let me tell you about Leigh Botts, this middle school kid whose life is like that awkward side quest in a game where nothing major happens, but the little details hit harder than they should. Leigh's got a lot going on: new school, parents splitting up, and a serious obsession with this author, Boyd Henshaw, who's basically his literary idol. Think of Leigh as that kid in class who's always kind of quiet but probably has a diary full of deep thoughts and random doodles. It all starts when Leigh decides to write to Henshaw for a school project. He's been a fan since forever and is all like, "Yo, I loved your book about that dog, can you answer these questions for my assignment?" Honestly, it's kinda adorable. Henshaw writes back, but instead of just handing Leigh the answers, he flips the script and starts asking Leigh questions. Plot twist, Leigh has to think about his feelings and, his life. Spoiler alert, Leigh isn't exactly ready for this kind of deep dive, but he gives it a shot. Leigh's first letters are, well, pretty surface level. He's like, "I'm Leigh. I like dogs. My mom works a lot. My dad drives a truck." The end. But as he keeps writing, you can tell he's starting to let his guard down, like when you're in a group chat, and someone finally drops a meme that says way too much about their mental state. You start to see that Leigh's carrying some heavy stuff, mainly his parents' divorce. His dad's this long-haul trucker who's always on the road, and honestly kinda flaky, and his mom's holding it down working at a catering business while raising Leigh solo. You can tell Leigh misses his dad, but he's also low-key mad at him for being so unreliable. It's giving daddy issues, but make it quiet. On top of all that, Leigh's new school isn't exactly vibes. He's the new kid, which is already hard enough, but someone keeps stealing his lunch out of his lunchbox, and it's driving him crazy. Like, seriously, this subplot about the lunch thief is Leigh's villain origin story. He starts trying to outsmart the thief, switching up his lunchbox, writing notes, even straight up booby-trapping his lunch, but no dice. Whoever's stealing his food is like the Phantom Thief from Persona 5, always one step ahead. Leigh vents about this to Boyd Henshaw, who probably didn't think he was signing up for lunchbox drama, but hey, here we are. Leigh's letters also give us a peek into his dreams and struggles. He really wants to be a writer, and Henshaw encourages him to write more, which is actually kinda wholesome. Leigh tries, but he's stuck in that everything I write sucks phase, which every creative person has been through. It's like when you're trying to draw a character from My Hero Academia, and their hands come out looking like spaghetti. Frustrating, but part of the process. And then there's his dad. Leigh keeps hoping his dad will show up more, maybe call, maybe visit, but the guy's flakier than a croissant. Leigh tries to act like it doesn't bother him, but you can tell it does. Every time his dad promises something and doesn't follow through, it's like another little crack in Leigh's heart. The only silver lining? Leigh's dog, Bandit, who's basically his emotional support animal. Bandit stays with his dad because he's always on the road, and honestly, Leigh misses the dog almost as much as the dad. Imagine crying into your pillow over both a bad parent and your missing pet. Brutal. As Leigh writes more letters, his tone starts to shift. At first, he's super formal, like, "Dear Boyd Henshaw, thank you for your time." But then he gets more casual, more real. You can tell he's starting to trust this guy he's never even met, which is kinda wild but also kinda sweet. Leigh's starting to figure out that writing isn't just about putting words on paper, it's about figuring out what you feel and why. Big brain moments. Leigh also drops some gems about his mom. She's working super hard, and he sees it, even if he doesn't always say it. She's got this no-nonsense energy, like a single mom who doesn't have time for your drama but will still pack you a sandwich. Leigh doesn't fully get how much she's juggling, but he's starting to appreciate her grind. It's like when you level up in a game and suddenly realize your healer has been carrying the whole team the entire time. By the end of this first act, Leigh's still dealing with all the same problems: divorce, loneliness, the cursed lunch thief, but he's starting to handle it differently. Writing to Henshaw has made him reflect a little more, and you can tell he's growing. It's not some big, flashy transformation like a magical girl turning into a warrior, but it's there in the little things. Leigh's learning how to deal, and even though he's still figuring it out, you can tell he's gonna be okay. In short, Letters and Longings is a vibe. It's about a kid trying to make sense of a world that feels a little too big and a little too unfair. But through his letters, Leigh starts to find his voice, and even though life isn't perfect, he's starting to figure out how to keep going. And honestly, that's kind of inspiring. Alright, so finding my voice is where Leigh Botts levels up, not in a Goku goes Super Saiyan kind of way, but in a quieter, more real-world, kid figures out life way. Leigh is done with just venting in letters to Boyd Henshaw, now he's channeling all those feels into his journal. Yup, our boy starts journaling. It's like he unlocked the self-care DLC, and let me tell you, it's a whole vibe. So, Leigh's teacher suggests he start writing for himself, and at first, he's like, what's the point of this? But then he realizes journaling is low-key the best way to sort through all the chaos in his head. It's like that one chill side quest in a game where you have to plant flowers or brew potions. It seems simple, but it actually helps you grind emotionally. Leigh pours out all the tea, his frustrations with school, his family drama, and that relentless lunch thief still running amok like a stealth ninja. Seriously, whoever's stealing this kid's food is a menace. Speaking of drama, let's talk about his dad. Leigh's still holding out hope that his trucker dad will come through, but the guy's about as reliable as a Wi-Fi connection in the middle of nowhere. Dad calls once in a while, but it's always some weak excuse for why he can't visit or why Bandit the dog has to stay on the road with him. Leigh's trying to act like he's not crushed, but you can tell it hits him hard. He's starting to see his dad for who he really is, not the superhero Leigh once thought he was, but just a flawed dude who's not great at keeping promises. Harsh, right? But let's not forget Leigh's mom, who's straight up the MVP. She's out here working crazy hours at her catering job, juggling bills, and trying to keep their tiny apartment running smoothly. Leigh's starting to notice just how much she sacrifices for him, and you can tell he's feeling a mix of gratitude and guilt. He even writes about how she always finds a way to make him feel special, even when things are tough. It's that moment in the anime when the side character turns out to be the secret powerhouse holding the squad together. Respect. Now, back to school, where things are complicated. Leigh's not exactly popular, but he's finding his rhythm. He enters this writing contest his teacher tells him about, and he takes it seriously. Like, he's grinding hard on his essay, trying to make it the best it can be. His topic? Life with his dad on the road before the divorce. It's equal parts heartbreaking and relatable, and you can feel how much he's grown as a writer. When he submits it, he's not even sure he'll win, but just putting himself out there is a huge step. Spoiler alert, he doesn't win first place, but he does get an honorable mention, which is still pretty awesome. And the best part? Leigh gets to meet an actual published author at the awards luncheon. The author encourages him to keep writing and reminds him that every great writer starts somewhere. It's like when you finally clear a hard boss fight, and the NPC is like, "You've got potential, young warrior." You can tell this moment sticks with Leigh and boosts his confidence. Then there's the big reveal about the lunch thief. Leigh finally catches the culprit, and guess what? It's just some random kid who's been dealing with his own struggles. Instead of blowing up about it, Leigh feels weirdly chill. It's like he realizes everyone's got their own battles, and stealing lunches was this kid's way of coping. Leigh's maturity here? Chef's kiss. He's growing up right before our eyes. By this point, Leigh's journal entries are getting deeper. He's reflecting on his relationships, his goals, and what he really wants out of life. Writing has gone from being a homework chore to a legit way for him to express himself. He's no longer just reacting to stuff, he's thinking things through, figuring out who he is, and even starting to dream bigger. It's like when your Pokemon evolves and suddenly has all these cool new moves. Leigh's evolving, emotionally and creatively. The final stretch of the story is all about Leigh finding closure. His dad shows up briefly, and while it's not the heartwarming reunion Leigh might have hoped for, it gives him some clarity. He sees his dad for who he is, flaws and all, and decides that even if his dad isn't the hero he wanted, it doesn't mean Leigh has to let that define him. It's a bittersweet moment, but it's also super freeing. Leigh's learning that he doesn't need anyone else to give him value, he can create his own happiness. By the end, Leigh's not the same kid who started writing to Boyd Henshaw about stolen lunches and missing dads. He's stronger, more self-aware, and way more confident in his ability to handle whatever life throws at him. Writing has become his superpower, and even though life isn't perfect, he's ready to face it head-on. So yeah, Finding My Voice is about Leigh leveling up in the most real, relatable way. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. He learns that life's a grind, but if you keep putting in the work, whether it's writing, dealing with family, or just surviving middle school, you'll come out stronger on the other side. And honestly, that's a W.